Hey guys, Louis here from Saks Wealth. Hope you're good. I'm just giving a breakdown really of my kind of anatomy of dealing with construction sites from a project manager point of view. These are standard construction builds, and this kind of framework can work whether it's a small refurbishment or a large conversion. So I've been involved in about £1.5 million worth of refurbishments. And then what I've done is I've concentrated that down to um, what that looks like in regards to managing processes and systems, to running the site as remotely as you can, but at the same time being as efficient as possible as when you need to be there. And in the case of managing sites much further afield, just making sure that when you are there, you're as effective as possible in regards to encapsulating as much detail about the property as possible. So I could talk for a very long time, but I'm going to race through this as quick as possible. So it will be a bit of a whirlwind, and towards the end, I'll be looking to showcase some of the journey that I've had in regards to dealing with some of the typical problems that come up at the very early stages of getting the keys for the property and what to look out for, as well as making sure it's successful for future occupants moving into the property as well. So in regards to documentation, so I do lean quite heavily on documentation. From a legal point of view, you need to lean on documentation. So that's just a factor that you have to get used to. If you're not used to using your PC and folders within your PC, then it's something that you just have to mold yourself into. And ultimately, it's good to rely on documents because it just helps everybody get on the same page. And you don't want to be waving documents around or walk around with a clipboard in much regard at all. But in the background, you do want to have documentation so that when you're looking to roll the process of refurbishments onto the next stages, you're able to do it more efficiently and make sure everybody's on the same page. And then as well, if the customer's coming back to you at later stages, they just know that they just fully acknowledge that something has been agreed on paper, and it just takes so much earache away when little things are documented up front. So I'll jump into it. So in regards to one of my most popular documentation I've put together, that would be in regards to this document called Client Preferences, Fixtures and Fittings. So from a project manager point of view, this seems to be really popular, and I've had a lot of success with putting this in front of customers and saying, look, we're the right company for you. We're going to do these works. We've quoted you for this amount, and you've addressed what you want us to cover. But to make sure the fixtures and fittings are correct at the back end of the works, please can you fill in this form? They're normally very understanding, so they'll say, these doors, these radiators, these shower trays, or they'll say, have you got a list of items that you do as standard? And then they'll ask to see it, and then they'll sometimes, if they're trying to keep things as simple as possible, which is a dream client, they'll just say, okay, just use your suppliers. I know you get discounts. You just crack on with the standard finish. And fingers crossed, you've got a good quality finisher products there. So it's good to put forms like this in front of the customer. And then when you go back to your trades, your plumber and your builders, and they're saying, okay, what exactly is going in the bathroom? Because we need to make sure the wall distance is correct, stuff like that. You're able to refer back to this form and say, okay, well, they are going for a bath or they are going for a shower. And if you've got your exact shopping list together, you know exactly how wide the shower tray is going to be and stuff like that. And as well, the drainage system within a shower tray, sometimes it can be above where the flooring is of the bathroom. So sometimes you need to factor that in because that can affect the ceiling height. So that's a bit more, that's going down a bit of a rabbit hole in that sense. But anyway, in regards to your point of view of having control over the client preferences and everybody kind of working backwards, this sheet really helps you reverse engineer the fixtures and fittings throughout the whole property. And as well, it helps you get better prices up front. It helps you with bringing items in at the right time and just getting each of the key stages going, moving onto the next stage as smooth as possible, which just helps all the morale on site. It helps you from an organisational point of view as well. And as well, it's just great. It is just so great because builders aren't the best at flagging problems up, but so you could be rolling 1 week to the next, and then all of a sudden the plumber says to you, okay, well, now I do need toilet basins and the cisterns. Where are they? Are they ready? How long are they going to be? What are you going to do? You're going to go down now? Are you going to get in a van? You need to get a hire van. You need to go now because otherwise I'm stood here twiddling my thumbs and you're paying me a whole day and it's not ready. And that's the sort of conversation you'll have. So when you've done this weeks or months ahead of that day, it just makes your life easier. And that is just the nature of what it's like dealing with the priorities and the organisation of builders. So it's great if you're spearheading the organisation with a form like this. Documentation-wise and the legal side, so I'm moving on from here. So when it comes to construction and you're dealing with a limited company, and if you just think of it generically in construction, you need to have a legal leg, a legal support system behind you. There are a number of documents that you need to fill in and checks you need to do, and online registrations you need to do as well, because you've got institutions that just like to walk on site and find problems and create problems for you. But ultimately, if you've got documentation and signage up, some welfare facilities, somewhere for them to be warm and dry off clothes, which could literally just be hanging up some hooks on the back of old doors that aren't needed anymore for drying their clothes, for example. And then you could just get any old sort of table off Facebook, put that in there, and that's somewhere for them to eat. And a little old microwave as well. And then temporary facilities to be able to wash their hands as well, stuff like that. But documentation-wise, you've got something called an F10 and a phase plan, which I know might sound like jargon, but basically it's a case of just acknowledging who you are, who the customer is, what the property is, and then it goes for a number of questionnaire questions in regards to acknowledging it in a final health and safety document if there's been any major issues or if there's anything that future trades should know about how to maintain and look after the property in a safe manner. So if the property if you've been made aware the property is near a mine shaft or something silly like that, then it's stuff like that you want to document in these files ready to give to the customer, so that if they ever go away and turn to another builder in the future, in practice they should be handing over this health and safety document. So it's quite self-explanatory and it's easy once you've done it once. And then the F10 form is just acknowledging to the HSE that you are who you are, you're doing what you're doing, and you're expecting it to take as many weeks as you're expecting it to take. And then normally they'll just have you on the register, and if they want to send someone around, they will. And with a bit more competence on the legal side, you'll be ready, easy enough to satisfy their needs and be doing a good job for your trades that are on site as well. And that's definitely something that will come up in the future if you're running sites that are typically taking more than 4 weeks to do, depending on how extensive your investor is in regards to what exactly they're purchasing, what they want to do with it. So if they are looking to buy a large property with 5 bedrooms and 1 bathroom or 2 bathrooms, and all of a sudden your client wants a HMO and they want 6 bedrooms and 6 bathrooms, and you're going to be doing substantial work, and that work isn't done in 4 weeks, it is done over a longer period. The 4 weeks doesn't really matter, but I'm just saying that sort of duration period, you are a kind of manager of people's lives for quite a substantial period. So it's your responsibility to see it as you are overseeing a duration of their life, and you need to be responsible for acknowledging that you're in a position where you're forcing them to kind of do this labor intensive work where they do need to be mature enough to look after themselves and each other, and that you're overseeing that they're making sure they're taking care of themselves and each other. And it just needs basically acknowledging down on documentation. And then at each key stage, you need to be acknowledging what's going on. So once you get all the kind of pack together, it's just a case of filling it in. And a lot of it you can copy and paste onto the next stages. And then at the end, you got a nice health and safety folder, which does feel like very good when you've got one sat in the corner ready to go in case any inspectors come along and say, what's going on with this site? Who are these people? Have you got their emergency contact details? And you say, yes, Mr. Inspector, here you go. So that's the legal side, and one of the key upfront documentations that I'll usually cover. This is what a phase plan looks like. So who the customer is, who you are, who the designer is, and if there's problems with the property. So that's phase plan. Now, typically with construction, it's renowned that there are maybe 8 key stages in regards to construction. So you got like the demolition, the building, getting it up to wall plate, getting a roof on the structure, and then starting with some of the, well, there's so many stages that I'm working these in here, but so you got demolition, construction, the roof carcass at least, and then we're fitting it out from there. So you'd look at first fix, second fix, closing up with plasterboard after the electrics have gone in, and from there decorating and snagging. So there's a small list from an industry point of view, whether you're speaking to mortgage lenders or clients, that fully expect them to just have these limited stages in their head and be expecting you to have a sensible conversation of, you know, price-wise what's going on and the level of work's going on at those 8 stages. But from my point of view, from a construction manager's point of view, I personally found that when you look at the anatomy, actually, there's more like 54 stages, which sounds like a lot, but with properties, you just have to appreciate that most properties in the UK, they're over 100 years old. And when somebody says, okay, well, I want new doors in the property and I don't like the frames, when you rip out the door and the frame, all of a sudden you find there's no support holding up the brickwork above the door. And you've got a duty to make sure that the property is given back safely. So when you're thinking you're taking away a bit of carpentry, all of a sudden it becomes a bit of building work going on. And building work makes you sit in a different camp of skills, knowledge, and experience. So that's how quickly you can find yourself needing to be prepared for different levels of construction going on, regardless of what the customer's looking for and regardless of what the fabric looks like from the surface. When you start pulling stuff back, all of a sudden with older properties, you can find issues. So it's quite exciting towards when you start to appreciate and expect that sort of thing coming, because properties are handmade, and all of a sudden you're having to see how people are correcting these issues and making it safe for this generation and the next, because properties can last over 100 years, as we well know. So it becomes very intriguing, and you just need to be used to. You need to be good at setting expectations and having sensible conversations when these issues do come up. So yes, about 54 stages, and what does that look like? Well, it's down here in the green. So the red is typically what the industry is expecting. The purple is what new builds, warranty people are expecting at key stages and when they might turn up. But from your point of view, these 54 stages, they're just areas where sometimes they might come up, sometimes they don't. If they don't come up, you're just crossing them off and moving on to the next one. But your responsibility is moving construction from one stage to the next as efficiently as possible, making sure the materials are there, making sure the trades are there, making sure the trades aren't tripping over each other. So you have to manage getting as much work done as possible, but while at the same time not having too many people there, and appreciating that some trades have a certain amount of tools following them around at any given time. So, for example, a builder might only need, on a general basis, a bucket and trowel at any given time, whereas a carpenter would need all sorts of tools and tables. So they need flat surface, they need to be able to cut, they need to be able to pick up dry materials, and and at the same time, those materials people might trip over, so you have to factor that in. Moving on from there, typical things I found with construction that you need to be mindful of is with going about plastering the property. In the winter, it can take a good 3.5 weeks for the property to dry out, depending how cold and wet the winter is. Whereas in the summer, it might take well less than a week for it to dry out. So it's really, really good if you can do work in the summer. And as well with roof work, regardless of the time of the year, you do need good conditions to do roof work, because it can be perilous and very slippery on the roof. So if there's bad weather, fully expect any roof work to just completely grind to a halt. So a builder might tell you with the best intentions, this roof work, it's only going to take 2 weeks, but if you've got bad weather for the whole 2 weeks and it drags on and drags on, it could be months. So you just need to be prepared with the elements as well, what's going on. There's other atmospheric challenges that can come up. That's another conversation. Moving on from there, I've just acknowledged that basically you might not be the most experienced person in construction, but ultimately with construction, you're just leveraging other people's skills, knowledge, and experience, and setting yourself up and your company up and your investor up in a way that acknowledges on paper who people are, what they're doing, and ultimately what the schedule of works looks like. Documenting it for any institution and doing as best you can to keep it within budget and keeping people motivated, while at the same time, a lot of the health and safety training that I go into, a lot of it is based around issues coming up because people aren't communicating, or they're being overworked. So you just need to keep a fine balance of how much work you're throwing onto people. And if you've got good trade, if you can get good at finding good trades, then that definitely helps the whole process go a lot smoother. And if you're finding multiple properties for trades, that's how you win them. And if you want to motivate trades to do both a good job, quality wise, speedy, so you want it finished on time, if you want it done on budget as well, from my experience, and these are major challenges at all levels of construction, is being able to find that fine balance of getting a good service going construction wise and having a good relationship with builders. And a key nugget here I'd give you to take away is to basically incentivize your builders that they'll get a bonus if they finish on time and on budget and do a good job. Incentivize them with a bonus. Do not lie. Make sure you've got it there and incentivize them and give it to them and pay it on time. But only, you have to stipulate, it's only once you've done satisfactory checks of the property. And obviously you just have to make sure you're looking after them. So you do need health and safety about. You do need to walk around it maybe once or twice with that clipboard. You do need to go and check their work. Don't ever just let builders waffle on and zigzag all over the place about verbally wise about problems and issues. Go and actually have a look. So if it's on the roof or to do with bathrooms or bedrooms, go and have a look at what that issue is. Be prepared to put fuel in your tank to go and have a look at whatever issue it is, especially if it's going to impact the budget for the investor. So this schedule of works is a form I've put together. Again, fill this in after you've had a good chat with the client and seen the property and seen the fabric and discussed what sort of issues they want to rectify and what sort of ways they want to remodel the property, and fire this over to the investor or the client as quick as possible. If they're in agreement, fire this over to your builders as quick as possible, or at least bullet point each of the key stages on WhatsApp group. And I'd even go as far as messaging the builders and printing these off. And when you print them off, print them off in large print. Some of the builders, they don't have great eyesight, and at key stages, these reminders will drop off the wall and disappear and go in a skip. It doesn't matter. Print them off again, stick them up somewhere so consistently they know what the plan is. I've been doing that since 2017. So I'm just going to run through some of the construction experience I've had. And you'll probably see it relates to some of the points I've raised here in regards to being proactive. So this is a property we're looking to purchase, and the garden had a drainage system benefiting not us but the neighbour. So upon purchasing it, we had to have a conversation through solicitors about them basically making new arrangements for them to take their drainage and channel that into their garden. So because we didn't know how they would respond, that was done through a solicitor. Obviously, you can do it differently. You can actually go around and knock on the door, but this was basically one of them first experiences. So it didn't cost as much, and it was sorted really quickly. This is other properties investors have purchased, and what I'm showing you here are issues that have come up upon us walking into the property as a construction firm, not really being told about these issues and basically being expected to rectify them. So on the left, we've got a collapsed drain, and this has taken away the gravel and the earth underneath somebody's drive next door, and it collapsed when the car went over it, conveniently when we were doing work on the property. The middle one, there's a flooded basement that happened pretty much every time it rained. So the surface level of the underground water was possibly coming up and down, and then that was going into the neighbour's property, and the neighbour made sure she let us know she knew about this problem, because apparently it was affecting her personal belongings in her basement. And then the next one, we've got a sump pump where another basement kept flooding in this particular area. So that's what a sump pump looks like, that rectifies consistent water flooding into a basement. And this has been going on for quite some time. So obviously the foundations weren't impacted, but you just want to take some sort of measure to rectify issues coming into the property when you're first walking into there, and being able to walk away from the property knowing that you've done as best you can to rectify issues that potentially could affect the fabric of the property going forward. So plans of the property, it's always good to print them off, make some notes, dish them out around the property, let builders know what you want to do, where stuff's going to be positioned, which walls you want taken out, which chimney breast you want taken out. And this is how it's evolved. The one in the middle, just to draw your attention to this one. So an actual architect put these plans together, and with these plans it stipulated where the bedrooms would be and where the walls would be, and actually from a construction point of view that stipulates how big the rooms would be. And very luckily we actually remodeled the property, because if we had followed those plans, you would almost be able to touch the walls with your arms stretched out. They were just far too small, so we pinched a bit of space from the upstairs and downstairs study room and kitchen area, and that meant the rooms got bigger, and it meant that you could actually use the property as a HMO with double beds in each of the rooms, and you could actually open the bathroom doors within those rooms and open your wardrobe doors. So it's really important to sometimes scrutinise plans you're getting from building regs and architects So this one on the left is how we actually remodeled that. You can probably tell we've encroached space from the kitchen space over there. And these are plans that I've drafted. And then we've got pointers to the right, and that's probably, just having a look here. So this one on the right is actually regarding a different property, and that's regarding more of a remodel in regards to somebody looking to, again, increase the size of their bedrooms. So yeah, bedroom size is really key. Moving on, upgrading services before you've got the keys, arranging that. So applications can take a while, so it's good to be ahead of upgrading services, get that paperwork going as soon as possible. These are other stages in regards to ensuring there's preparation for trades to come in and substantial building work to be carried out as early as possible and as proactively as possible. So yeah, with decorators, you're looking to get together all their tools. The investor wanted to keep the original doors but not the paint, so we had to get some heat guns to strip off the paint. We did try the paint stripper products, but we had to use a combination of both of them in the end. The relief on the wall, we were keeping that. The radiators down on the bottom, again, wanted to keep that, and we had them powder coated to different colours. They looked really, really good, and the original ones went back in and plumbed up. And then on the left, we've got some construction work, and when you're having concrete poured, mortar poured for the brickwork, you do need to have tubs, and sometimes they're a cost, and you need to have them ahead of the actual concrete truck turning up. So that's a bit of a process you need to do up front. You can't just rely on it on the day, and you can't just buy these tubs from your general builders merchants. So being proactive is very key. Do that ahead of getting the keys. And this is some of the reasons why it's good to take a deposit up front from the investors, because there are some real costs involved in getting their project steaming ahead as quick as possible. These tiles are against building regs, so they needed taken down back in 2017. And moving on from there, building regs wise, so these steels top left needed some fire treatment, so we put fire retardant paint on them, which building regs were happy with. The roof this is a top floor, the roof above this room wasn't standard construction, and it had a concrete pad in there which was supported by these steel beams, and we needed lights in there, but we didn't want to create too much of a void in the ceiling because the ceiling height wasn't that high anyway. But we made it look pretty enough, and the furniture you'll see at the end complements the steels really nice actually. The blue asbestos, the big garden had a drainage from all them terrace houses coming through the back, and that stopped our build of a extension into the rear garden, so that's something to watch out for. And then the bottom right is some soundproofing treatments with the concrete blocks laid on their side, heavy duty blocks, and then the soundproofing bars, reducing bars on the walls on the bottom there. So drainage, done quite a bit of drainage, and of course that means trenching out where you want the drains to go, and then inputting in new services, making sure there's enough of a fall on there, and making sure the water is supporting enough volume for the property in case everybody takes a shower and flushes the toilet at the same time is a real factor that you need to look at. Moving on from there, of course it's daunting when you're looking at property and there's cracks appearing, of course. It did turn out that wasn't a problem. So that was photos we'd taken up on viewing, so that's good to just factor into your pricing when you're looking at a property. Moving on to there in regards to some structural support and changes and upgrades to properties. So the property on the right, structural engineer wanted us to support the property with literally metal bars and straps vertically and horizontally, so from the floor joist. So we So this investor, unfortunately, they wanted to keep